So, to make room for him, Spurs essentially took a wrecking ball to their right wing-back department. You just imagine Miley Cyrus swinging in on her, coming in like a wrecking ball and obliterating what came before. I must admit, it does make me chuckle slightly in a kind of a maniacal way. Maniacal laugh. People who want the Muppet movie will get that one. The Emerson Royale, when at one point he was being huge cheers around the stadium that he was going off the pitch. It looked like his time at Tottenham was over. Spurs had been kind of very willing to get him out the door. Yet here we are, February the 1st, and Emerson Royale survived the cull. He did. And as I said, hinted at, if something were to happen to Pedro Porro, Emerson Royale, I don't know why I said it like that. Emerson Royale becomes the first choice Tottenham right wing back. Whoa. And look, that's not to me. I don't like to dig into Emerson Royale too much because I do think he's been playing well recently. Some of his best performances, to be fair. But yeah, he's not the attacking wing back, of course. Of course he's not. But defensively, he's going to offer you something. But I just find it bizarre that, let's start with Jed Spence. So 6 months, are we? He signed for Spurs ago. That was a terrible sentence, but you know what I mean. Labelled a club signing by Conte. To me, I think it was in South Korea. And it was just before he'd signed. We had to kind of hold on to the interview. But it was for going out the next day. And we knew Jed Spence was about to sign. And the moment he said club signing, I was like, oh no. I know what I've just managed to get out of him. It's your fault, Gold. Pretty sure it was to me. I'm sure it was in one of the questions I asked about something. It was about something else, and he actually started to offer up talking about Jed Spence because we weren't going to ask about it because it wasn't done yet, and normally managers don't talk about this sort of stuff, and we all kind of looked at each other. But yeah, so 41 minutes of football, like I say, and he's already gone to Rennes on loan, which he'll be there with Joey Roden. Joey Roden, like we're mates. Joe Roden. Know him, do you? Yeah, and it's actually one of those that's ended up being, I think it's a really clever deal. I do. I think it's a clever deal from Jed Spence's side more than anything. What I have to make clear is, from what I understand throughout the whole process, neither Jed Spence or the club were willing to look at options to buy or obligations to buy in any of the loan deals. And I think, from what I understand, that's what kind of nixed any possibility of a Premier League move. Every Premier League offer they got either contained an option or an obligation to buy, I think, including they rejected certainly one from Brentford that had an obligation. And it's because Spurs believe that he can go on to still be a star, and Jed Spence is firmly of the opinion that he can be very successful at Tottenham. And this is just a bit of a hiccup, a kind of a bit in the road where he needs to head off in a slightly longer path around to improve, develop, and get himself kind of get that experience that either Conte, if he is still here next season, requires, or that the next manager will want. So what I understand is when it came down to it at the end, Spence had the choice of 5 clubs from across Europe. He rejected Atletico Madrid. We'll come back to them shortly. He needs his confidence back as well. So yeah, good move. Then there is the curious case of Matthew Doherty, or Doherty. I'll be honest, and I think this is shared by most people within the football club, including Matthew Doherty, and probably his mates Harry Kane and Eric Dyer. I don't think anyone expected Matt Doherty to be leaving the club this window. I don't think that was ever, in the early weeks, thought it was going to be likely. Towards later, as the window, you've probably heard me say in the videos, as the window went on, there was a bit like, well, Emerson has no real intention of going. So, what are we going to do? You're going to end up with 3 well-paid senior right wing backs, and only 1, occasionally 2, are going to play. So I think it became more and more of a possibility that maybe Doherty would have to go, especially if he was told, look, you're not going to get many more minutes this season. Yeah. And then late on, this, exit route occurred. And it was Atletico Madrid once again going, hello. Probably more of a Spanish accent. But, hello. That's weird. They've got a thing about Spurs fullbacks. I don't know what it is. They bought Kieran Trippier. Sergio Reguilon they took this season. They tried to get Emerson Royale last summer and again in this window, but he just wasn't having it. They tried for Jed Spence as well, like I said, and eventually they came around to Matt Doherty. That's when things got a bit messy. And I don't mean Lionel. I mean the Tottenham Hotspur kind of messy. So, I think it was late on Monday that he found out Atletico was a real option. And pretty much it was a case of get your passport, let's go. Tuesday morning, it was all kind of starting to fall into place that he'd be going there on a loan. All the noises coming out of Spurs were very much, it's going to be a straight loan, no obligation or option to buy. Just, he comes back in the summer and we see where we're at. Only, at some point during the process, it appears to be on Tuesday, someone realised that with Jed Spence heading out on loan, Spurs were going to reach the limit of, and it was recently imposed new FIFA rules, but they came into force this season. So they have been in place since July the 1st last year, that you can only have 8 players out on international loans at any one time. You can have 8 in and 8 out international. It used to be unlimited. I even responded, to be fair, I wasn't aware of it until yesterday. I even responded to someone on Twitter saying, I think it's unlimited international loans in. But it appears that this rule came in and it is 8 either way. Domestic is different, obviously. I think domestic, certainly the Premier League, might even only be 2. All right, mate, make yourself comfortable. Sorry, and he's stretching out and kicking me while doing so. This is so weird when you can't see him. Hopefully you've seen the start of the video so you know he actually exists now. Yeah, so somebody at some point realised that this was going to be the case. I'm sure Spurs will deny this to the absolute rafters and say, oh no, we were always aware. But something clearly changed. Let's just tally up these loans, right? Tanguy Ndombele, Giovanni Lo Celso, Sergio Reguilon, Brian Hill, obviously, who left as well on Monday. Talk about him. Harry Winks, Joe Rodon, as we mentioned, Destiny Udogie, and Jed Spence, becoming the last of them to go out. What is really important to note from all of that is that the club's transfer policies, work, whatever you want to say, has been so bad, and their ability to sell players so awful, that they've got 7 signings out on loan that cost them around £215 million. These £215 million worth of transfers sitting out there on loan, playing for other clubs and actually doing very well. Tonguy's probably going to win the Serie A. Lo Celso, obviously, I think he's now coming back from injury. Reguilon at Atletico Madrid, Brian Hill going back to his hometown club or his boyhood club. Even Harry Winks is back. Joe Rodon having a good season. Jed Spence will have a better season. Destiny Udogie having a decent season as well with Udinese. So all these players signed, they've pretty much gone elsewhere to enjoy themselves. Yeah, 215 million. It's absolutely mind-boggling. And then you've got Harry Winks, who is an academy product, so he doesn't quite count in that. But what it all meant was that Matt Doherty, he could not go. He could not go on a loan. So a compromise had to be found. And I'll be honest, none of us expected it. I was made aware of this loan change. This loan rule late on yesterday. Probably about almost 2 hours before the Doherty deal was done, and I was desperately trying to find out how it all worked. Yeah. And yeah, the noises I was getting back from it was, oh, it's all right, don't worry about it. And then presumably it was because by that point it had been decided that Spurs were going to mutually, with Matt Doherty, terminate his contract. Oh, can you imagine what, his besties, Harry Kane and Eric Dyer, thought about that when they heard the news? Well, I'm going to talk about the players in a minute because I do know how the players reacted to it. So yeah, mutually terminated. Even in their press release that they will have put on there, they email it out and you'll have seen it on their website. They weren't even able to say where he went. It was purely, we have mutually terminated his contract so he can join another club. And it's like, oh my goodness. But Doherty has gone from everyone expecting it to be him and Pedro Porro to he doesn't even play for Tottenham Hotspur anymore. It was such a scramble when that all happened. And there's so many aspects to this as well, because you could say, well, they did the same for Serge Aurier, 2021. But he had, I think it was under a year remaining on his contract. Matt Doherty had 18 months left on his deal. Loads of time left on his deal. And I think what will have to, Matt Doherty will have needed assurances that financially he'd be recompensed in case, because he's only signed for Atletico, I should stress this, on a 6-month deal until the summer. That's all it is. I don't know. There may well be that Atletico have got an option to extend that. It would be weird not to, and that may be in it. I don't know. But Matt Doherty would need to be covered financially by Tottenham in case he's out of contract and has no club in July. And he would also have to be really covered financially if he were to, let's say, he goes to another club. And there's a shortfall in his salary to what it would have been had he still been on the contract he had at Tottenham. So there's no way in the world that Matthew Doherty, I'm Conteing him, I'm going to call him Matthew Doherty. There's no way that if I'm Matthew Doherty, I'm going, oh yeah, all right, nice one, yeah, I'll leave, I'll take less than whatever I was on. Yeah, all right, let's go. There's not what happens. There's no need for it. He doesn't, if Spurs are trying to push him out of the club essentially in that regard, regardless of whether it's Atletico Madrid, you're not going to go, oh, all right, yeah, no, I'll throw away potential earnings for the following year after this 6 months. So financially, Spurs will have had to strike a deal that means that his contract is covered. It's the only way to do it. But then there's even more to it than that, if you think about it, because the Spurs, in terms of in the football side of things, Spurs have lost a very popular senior player and a player who could do the job Conte was asked of him. Yes, he was having dips and stuff, but when he was peaking, sounds weird, like he's looking over a hedge, but when he was peaking, he was absolutely doing what Conte wanted from a wing-back. And you do wonder with a run of games whether he still would have been able to do that. And from what I understand, honestly, the Spurs players, his teammates, were absolutely shocked when they found out the news as Tuesday progressed. I've kind of heard the ways some of them found out, and the shocked phone calls, video calls, everything. Honestly, absolutely stunned. No one saw that one coming. But even away from the player side of things, Spurs have lost out on any potential fee they could have got for him. They've really written off a fee because he's gone on a free transfer. So let's say it was a loan, and then in the summer they might have decided, okay, sorry, we're going to go with Porro and Spence, let's say. Matt Doherty cost 15 million. I think he's now 31 maybe. So yeah, you're not talking much, but you are talking probably a couple of million, maybe 5 million. So that's gone. Spurs are now not able to get that unless there's this incredible turnaround in the summer where they sign him back on a free. The greatest return ever. Matthew Doherty. Can you imagine the announcement video for that one? Wow. So it makes the Porro deal even more expensive because one of the players he's replacing has just been written off. You can essentially take £3, £4, £5 million that they might have got in the summer off. I mean, with a year left in his deal, if he was having a really good end to the season, I still think, still think maybe you could get up to 5 million for him.